Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to go to my review of Monday Night Raw. Starting off the night, we have Drew McIntyre coming out to the ring. Drew grabs a microphone. Drew talks about Hell in a Cell, the injuries that he sustained in Hell in a Cell. He also talks about going home and going back home to Scotland. And the reason why he went back home to Scotland was because of a passing of a family member. He talks about that. Drew says that a lot of people, if they would have known why he went home, maybe the locker room be a little bit different towards Drew McIntyre, but nobody reached out except for one person reached out to Drew when he was home dealing with the unfortunate news with one of his family members passing away. Drew says that Zayn, Jimmy J would stab him in the back. Drew says that Roman and Punk are the villains of WWE. After that, Zayn is here. Zayn comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Zayn says that he did not know what Drew was doing back home in Scotland. Drew talks about the sacrifices that he made throughout his career. Zayn then says that he has sacrificed a lot, missed weddings, missed funerals as well, and sacrificed a lot during his time in WWE, or being a professional wrestler. Zayn says that they're lucky to be in WWE. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Zayn says that the fans made Drew McIntyre. Zayn says that the Bloodline have nothing to do with Drew. Drew says that Zayn cannot get a win over Drew. Zayn then attacks Drew. Drew then goes for a Claymore kick. Jey Uso is here. Jey then attacks Drew McIntyre. Some interesting stuff there between Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of the night. It's a Women's Intercontinental Tournament matchup. It is Io Sky replacing Kairi Sane, who was injured last week, taking on Alba Fire and Natalya. Number one, I thought it was a good match, man. It was a decent match, back and forth matchup, with Io keeping the pace of the match. Alba hits a swanton off the top, taking out Natalya and Io. Natalya gets up, applies a double sharpshooter in the middle of the ring, but the hold is broken. Io then hits a moonsault to the outside. And then Io hits another moonsault off the top rope on Natalya, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match, moving on in the Women's Intercontinental Tournament, is Io Sky. Hats off to Io Sky for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. Tozawa taking on Chad Gable. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Tozawa and Gable, with Gable keeping the pace of the match. Gable goes to the outside. He smacks Otis in the face. Gable then hits multiple German suplexes on Tozawa, and then Gable applies an ankle lock on Tozawa. Tozawa taps out, and your winner of the match is Chad Gable. After the match, Chad Gable still had the ankle lock on Tozawa. Otis goes in the ring to attack Chad Gable. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's Damian Priest taking on Dominic Mysterio. I thought it was a decent match. It was a good match. Back and forth matchup with Damian Priest keeping the pace of the match. Judgment Day come out to the ring. Judgment Day attack Priest. Match ends in disqualification due to the fact that Judgment Day attacked Damian Priest. The War Raiders are here. The War Raiders then attack Judgment Day. Then Priest hits a choke slam on Finn Balor in the middle of the ring. Moving on from that, we have a Rollins sit-down interview. Rollins talks about Punk. Rollins then talks about Punk walking out on WWE. Rollins says that this is the biggest match in WWE history and that it will be a fight between himself and CM Punk on the Raw debut episode on Netflix January 6th. And it is the main event, from what I understand, for the debut episode of Raw on Netflix. Definitely looking forward to that matchup between Rollins and CM Punk. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. Dexter Lumis versus The Miz. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Lumis and The Miz, with Lumis keeping the pace of the match. Lumis then hits a senton off the apron, taking out The Miz. Authors of Pain are here. Dexter then attacks AOP. Karrion Kross comes out to the ring to attack Dexter Lumis. Match ends in a disqualification. Wyatt Six are here. The Wyatt Six end up attacking Final Testament. Looks like there's some unfinished business here between the Final Testament and the Wyatt Six. Moving on from that, we have the New Day segment. New Day come out to the ring. New Day mock Wade Barrett, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. New Day then talk about Big E. It says they didn't do anything to Big E. They didn't attack Big E, anything else like that. They just, they didn't say anything bad, according to Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, to Big E. And they don't understand why the fans turned on them. After that, Kofi said tonight was supposed to be a celebration. Kofi said that his mom is in the crowd. She was on a 20-hour flight and flew out. to Kofi, watching Kofi on Monday Night Raw. So Kofi goes out to get a hug from his mom that was in the crowd, and his mom stood up, looked like she was very disappointed in Kofi. And next thing you know, she walks away. Kofi looking distraught, looking like, what the hell did I do wrong? And Kofi's mom walks to the back. So it looks like even Kofi's mom knows that Kofi Kingston is in the wrong with this Big E situation. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of Monday Night Raw. It is Drew McIntyre taking on Sami Zayn. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between McIntyre and Zayn, with McIntyre keeping the pace of the match. Zayn hits an exploder on Drew McIntyre, but Drew hits a Claymore on Sami Zayn, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Drew McIntyre. Hats off to Drew McIntyre for getting the win in this matchup. So, before I get the hell out of here, man, let's talk about Monday Night Raw. Number one, was it a good show? Yeah, it wasn't a bad show. Even though I know, obviously, the show was taped, and I get why, because of the holidays. And by the way, from my family to yours, happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Hope you guys are going to be, getting some good gifts this year from Santa. And spending time with family. It's always important, especially around the holidays. So, like I said before, my family to you guys, happy holidays. And I hope you guys have a really good holiday season this year. But with Monday Night Raw, with what we got and what I looked at, obviously the vocal point last night was Drew McIntyre. Obviously, there's a lot of hostility here between Drew and the Bloodline. It looks like Drew is, setting the stage, if you will, or setting the precedent of the fact that he came back to attack the Bloodline, the original Bloodline, Roman's Bloodline. So, the past couple weeks, Drew has attacked Jey Uso. He's attacked Sami Zayn. He was recently attacked by Jimmy Uso. So it looks like McIntyre will attack Jimmy at some point. And who knows? We might see Drew McIntyre even try to attack Roman Reigns. It's still yet to be seen. But I also do know that even after the match, last night, the main event, we saw the Bloodline attack Zayn and Jey. And Drew McIntyre was pretty much standing tall with the Bloodline as they were attacking them last night. So there's a lot of things to really dissect out of that, man. To me, honestly, I do think Drew McIntyre is not obviously going to be a part of Solo Sikoa's bloodline. I'm not saying that. But I do think Drew McIntyre is going to be that guy outside the fence looking in when it pertains to Solo Sikoa and the situation that they're dealing with Roman and the original bloodline. Even so far so that I would say with Drew McIntyre so far not having a match scheduled for the January 6th episode of Raw debuting on Netflix, I do know that Roman is taking on Solo Sikoa in the Tribal Chief combat match, if you will, to finally decide who is the actual Tribal Chief. What's to say that Drew McIntyre does not get involved somehow in this matchup and somehow helps Solo Sikoa take out Roman, and then Solo Sikoa is the Tribal Chief? What's to say that Drew McIntyre does not get involved in that matchup? So again, just my speculation. But I do think that Drew McIntyre, if he's not booked for a match on the January 6th episode of Raw, there could be a very high probability, maybe, that Drew McIntyre does get involved in the matchup between Roman and Solo Sikoa, due to the fact that it looks like I said, Drew McIntyre, is outside the fence looking in when it pertains to the bloodline and what Solo Sikoa is doing, as far as Solo taking down Roman Reigns and the original bloodline. The other thing I'm going to talk about is the Women's Intercontinental Title Tournament that took place. Well, one of the matches that took place last night, triple threat matchup with Io Sky taking on Alba Fire and Natalya. And my prediction for that tournament, it is going to be Io Sky that I think is going to win this tournament. My top two names in this tournament that I think was going to win it originally, well, to win the whole thing, my two picks were Io Sky and Lyra Valkyria. Now, again, I would not mind seeing, obviously, the matchup between Io Sky and Lyra Valkyria. I think it's going to be a great match. Obviously, with Kairi Sane being out, Io Sky being slotted in for Kairi Sane's spot. You even saw Pure Fusion Collective last night approach Adam Pearce with Sonya Deville asking Pearce if she can fill in for Kairi Sane in the Women's Intercontinental Tournament, and Pearce told her no. Why would I, give you a gift if I will, after what you guys just did by taking out Kairi Sane, and Io Sky took her place. I think Io will be the winner of this tournament, in my prediction, and she will be the new Women's Intercontinental Champion. I think she's the best name right now in this tournament going forward. to win the Women's Intercontinental title tournament, the tournament, as well as becoming the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. But like I said, man, I mean, for what it's worth, obviously these shows are taped. Obviously, you know, the superstars are home with their families during the holidays, and they should be. And obviously things are going to pick up very, very fast here for Monday Night Raw going into the debut episode on Netflix. The other thing I want to talk about, too, and I put my conspiracy hat on here for a minute, when Drew McIntyre was cutting that promo to start the night, if you will, and he was talking about going back to Scotland and obviously dealing with the family issues and the loss of family that he had to recently deal with and why he went back to Scotland. And during that promo, the one thing that Drew McIntyre said that really stuck out to me was the fact that Drew McIntyre said that nobody reached out except for one person. Now, who was that one person that had possibly reached out to Drew McIntyre? You know, my top two picks, maybe way off base, but it could have been Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that possibly reached out to Drew McIntyre. Maybe McIntyre is doing The Rock's, you know, dirty work, if you will, but when it pertains to the bloodline. It's a possibility. Or maybe possibility the other person that reached out to Drew McIntyre might have been Kevin Owens. You know, there's been a lot of people, I've seen some people that even speculate the fact that there might be a little stable here possibly in the works between Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens, which I thought was absolutely hilarious considering the fact that Seth Rollins does not like Drew McIntyre at all. But I can understand the fact that even with the hatred, you know, the hate between Rollins and McIntyre, besides all that, they still do not like Roman Reigns. But them being in a stable is absolutely hilarious. I do not see that happening. But as far as the person that probably called Drew, I would say maybe Kevin Owens, or most likely maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, WrestleMania is not too, you know, a few months away. Once Royal Rumble hits, we're right into WrestleMania season. The road to WrestleMania starts, in my honest opinion, with the Royal Rumble, with the winner of those Royal Rumble matches getting a main event spot at WrestleMania. It might have been Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The biggest thing here with The Rock is nobody knows what The Rock's going to be doing leading up to WrestleMania 41. Is he going to be involved? Is he going to have a match? Is he going to take on Roman? Is he going to have a match with Cody Rhodes? There's a lot of different angles here when it pertains to The Rock. Now, I know some people said, well, you know, from what I've read, The Rock might not be a part of WrestleMania 41, which I think is complete bullshit. I think The Rock will be a part in some kind of capacity for WrestleMania. But in which way? Is he going to be a host? Is he going to have a match? You know, is he going to face off against Roman? Because you have to understand, the last time that we've seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson anywhere near WWE was Bad Blood, when Roman had teamed up with Cody Rhodes to take on Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And after the match, you see The Rock coming down the ramp, standing there, and, you know, counting 1, 2, 3, and then that was the end of the feed. So what was The Rock doing, you know, at Bad Blood, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Bad Blood was in October, if I'm not mistaken, until where we are now. So the biggest question is how is The Rock going to fall into play with this Bloodline storyline? And like I said, when it pertains to Drew, obviously Drew has his sights set on Roman Reigns' original Bloodline. He's already had 2 matches now with Sami Zayn, one at Saturday night's main event where he beat Sami Zayn, and then obviously last night where he also beat Sami Zayn with a Claymore kick last night. He also attacked Jay a couple weeks ago. So it looks like Jay is going to be the next person to step up to attack Drew McIntyre. It looks like Drew McIntyre it could be something where Drew goes through the entire bloodline leading up to Roman Reigns. But the other question with that, and like I said, I know some people say, oh, well, he's already tied up with Rollins. Yeah, but CM Punk was also a part of that, you know, Survivor Series matchup with the bloodline. You know what I mean? Is he really going to go through all those people again? Is Drew going to attack every single person a part of that? We already seen him attack Zayn and Jay. And then he was attacked by Jimmy. So obviously Jimmy, after Jay, I feel like Jimmy's going to be the next person on the list for Drew McIntyre to attack. And it looks like for some reason Drew McIntyre has his sights set on the original bloodline. So there's just a lot of things to factor in here, man. And I think obviously right now WWE is kind of playing it safe right now. And I get it, obviously the holiday season and stuff like that. But I'm telling you guys right now, and I've said this, I have preached this now for the past couple weeks. This debut episode of Raw on Netflix is going to be absolutely insane. You had the main event with Seth Rollins and CM Punk, a grudge match that has been going on, it seems like, for a long, long time between both Rollins and CM Punk. You got Roman Reigns taking on Solo Sikoa. You have Liv Morgan defending the women's world title against Rhea Ripley. The card is stacked, bro. It's absolutely stacked. We have supposedly appearances by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. We also have appearances of the returning of John Cena. There's also been rumors and speculation that we also might see Becky Lynch as well be a part of Raw's debut episode on Netflix. So they are gonna that debut episode is gonna feel like it's a PLE. In my honest opinion, it's gonna look absolutely incredible. I can't wait to see what the stage looks like, the ring. It's gonna look. I mean, it's gonna be insane. It's gonna be absolutely insane. And I think, 2025, for professional wrestling is going to be absolutely insane from both sides of the fence, whether it's WWE or AEW. And I said that now for the past couple of weeks. But like I said, man, there's a lot of things to really look into from what it was last night, even though it was a tape show. Damian Priest looks like he's going to be working with the War Raiders now, that the fact that the War Raiders came out to the ring to help out Damian Priest. When the Judgment came down there to attack Priest, the War Raiders came out there to save Damian Priest. So, it looks like the War Raiders are going to align themselves up with Damian Priest to probably take down the Judgment Day. And, I said this last week. I think the Judgment Day are eventually coming to an end. I think they do need to split. I don't think there's anything else left for the Judgment Day to do. At this point, I feel like they already done everything they can do. They already reached their peak as a stable when they had Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest a part of the stable. And to be honest with you, I do think they need to split up, to be honest with you. Finn needs to go do his own thing and be a singles competitor. JD needs to hopefully find his way into the fold, into, maybe the mid card with JD McDonough. Obviously, Raquel and Liv Morgan obviously being a part of the women's division. I think the biggest wild card in all that is Carlito. I think Dominic Mysterio is going to be fine. The fans, hate Dominic Mysterio, and I think Dominic's going to stay around for quite a while. I think the only person that might affect, to be honest with you, is probably Carlito. But I think it's time that they, the Judgment Day split up. I think with what Rey is doing right now, what Damian Priest is doing right now, the fact that, they took themselves away from the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley is immensely over right now. She's one of the biggest baby faces in all of WWE, as well as Damian Priest. So, to me, logically, it just makes sense for eventually the Judgment Day to split up. Obviously, it's not going to last forever. And it does look like, Finn Balor and Liv Morgan in the past couple of weeks have kind of been, bumping heads here these past couple of weeks. They've both been mocking each other and stuff like that. So I can see the Judgment Day potentially splitting up here relatively soon. And to be honest with y'all, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I think it's well overdue for the Judgment Day to split up. But like I said, man, I mean, Raw did not disappoint. Obviously the main vocal point last night was Drew McIntyre with the opening segment of Raw, and obviously the main event with him going up against, once again, Sami Zayn. And, obviously the Bloodline being a part of that, helping Drew McIntyre. So there's a lot of things to really factor in with that. You know what I mean? And obviously for what it looks like, Drew McIntyre looks like he wants to destroy everything the original Bloodline stand for, and including the members of the original Bloodline. So it looks like Drew McIntyre is going to have his hands full with the original Bloodline moving forward, and I'm all for it, man. I'm absolutely all for it. But with that being said, this is my review of Monday Night Raw. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.